Hello, everybody. We're joining you from NDTV's newsroom. Last week, Delhi government released a special circular that was meant for students of Delhi, and it said that their winter break has been advanced till November 18th. So, children of Delhi are at home even before their winter actually sets in, and they're all enjoying their winter break. Now, Delhi has been seeing this phenomenon for last many years. Uncertain disclosure or closure of schools and extended holidays for children at home. How are schools looking at it, and what kind of impact does this uncertainty have on children, their minds, and their lives? This is what I wanted to discuss tonight. I have Mr. Praneeth Mungali with me. He is an educationist and also a trustee of the Sanskriti group of schools. Thank you, Praneeth, for joining us. I wanted to ask you straight away, what kind of impact does this extended closure of schools and telling children that you'll have to be at home have on children, their minds and their behavior?
It definitely has a harmful impact, Vastaji, because uncertainty of any kind for children is not good. And especially in the backdrop where we have to understand that students these days consume social media and news so actively that they're so well informed, they know that they're also going to face this uncertainty perhaps year on year for a number of years. Also, the long term impacts on their own health, where we read about the impacts of the hazardous material and the long term damages. So, I think we can't just think in terms of the short term trauma that they're possibly processing in their minds, but the long term trauma of all of this, which is going to cause as well.
Right. Vishpani, so there is also this thing about online classes, right? But I'm sure there is a lot that students miss out on when classes go completely online. What are the values of online system? I know it's not the best option for schools, but what is it that children really miss out when schools go completely online?
I think, Vastaji, the most important aspect of a school is the social behavioral learning, which it's the context which it's taking place in, right? And the sense of connection that students draw from each other and the lifelong benefits of those connections cannot be underestimated because loneliness in any kind of a format is almost a punishment in most countries. And at this stage where the neuroplasticity of the children is still developing, and children really are getting formed, to isolate them and give them a learning context where they're not going to get a chance to connect. So most of the socializing is happening online. If the learning is also going online, then it's not just the academic loss, but the stunted social emotional development, which is a bigger worry.
Right. Um, Gunichi, there is also this view that schools may have to maybe review their calendars, given that Delhi's weather patterns are changing. We have a monsoon that was quite extreme this time. We have winter, which is we have fog-related holidays. We have pollution-related holidays. COVID already wasted almost 2 years of children's lives. With them being stuck at homes, being trapped in homes. So, are schools also looking at reviewing their calendars?
I think it's something which unfortunately has to be thought of as a plan because if this is going to be a repeated pattern year on year, then the calibration of the entire calendar will have to be thought about in that kind of a manner.
Right. And so I have a 4-year-old, and I find it very difficult to prepare him to go to school every time there's a long break. So, what kind of changes are you seeing, especially in little children? Is it getting more difficult to get them accustomed to coming to school every day? What are the challenges that you're facing because of these frequent holidays, because of complete uncertainties?
It's always going to be tougher on the younger ones because you used COVID as an example earlier in your conversation. We all see the impact that the children have had of being isolated, and especially the youngest ones. So this is definitely difficult, and to try and sensitize them about a situation like this, where whether it's wearing masks or being restrained in their interactions with each other, it's not an easy job at all.
So, how do schools cope with that?
I think it's the only solution is working with parents as partners, being honest and transparent, and recognizing that this is an uncertain situation where we need to be very careful of not just the conduct of the students but in the school, but while they're at home as well. So it's just being honest and transparent in the communication with the teachers, with the parents, working as very transparent stakeholders.
Right. So, also in some schools, in every class, as schools move towards mainstreaming, I know that some children may not be as quick as other children, so that they may need special support. And when you have extended breaks, it is this group of children that often get left out, in terms of acquisition of skills. And Sanskriti, as a group of schools, actually focuses a lot on special needs. So tell me, how do children with special needs cope, and does mainstreaming at such a circumstance become all the more of a challenge for you?
Definitely does, because the impact of being isolated and the impact of missing out that connection is even more severe for the children with special needs. So it is definitely a challenge, and fortunately, the counselors, parents, we've had a lot of support from them in trying to, in our experience, with trying to help us with this situation.
Right. So, do you also see behavioral changes in children when they don't come to schools, and also there is this uncertainty? So, do you see more aggression in children? Do you see more patterns of bullying in kids because of staying at home for long and not really getting an opportunity to interact with peers?
Definitely, I think the first giveaway sign is that children have started avoiding eye contact, where it's something which would otherwise come so naturally, and if it's a situation where it's the first time you're not really engaging outside in a proper manner. So aggression is definitely a problem, because the way they're processing the stress is a little different from adults. So aggression is a problem. When they come back to school, there's social readjustment, but what's really worrying is even the basic things like eye contact is going away.
Right. That's an important thing. So, what do you advise parents? Because, many of us are working, and I know my child spends a lot more time on the screen right now because he's at home. And screen time, has that also increased? And what's your advice to parents who are working and whose children are forced to stay at home? What is your advice to them?
I think it's a very difficult situation, because if one were to look at the studies to back it up, then WHO has unequivocally said that it's dangerous for children to be on any amount of screen time till a certain age, and even beyond that certain age, no more than 2 hours a day. So on one
Okay.
hand, you have this kind of a recommendation, which is the right thing to do, and the challenges of dual parenting households where both parents are away. And in these situations, the solution is going to be slightly different for different age groups, because with older students, you can have a conversation and try to explain to them about how to balance the use of screens or screen time for education as well as entertainment. The younger you go, the more difficult it gets to impose those kind of filters. So without some adult supervision, it's really very difficult for uh, for parents to manage it by themselves. Whether it's the support of grandparents or other people, it's going to be really crucial.
Right. So, what are the changes that you're seeing in older children? We talked about younger kids now, but what about older children, the ones who are preparing, if they go to college or give their board exams? What kind of impact does this have on children who are, maybe preteens or teenagers?
I think the same set of issues which we've spoken about, the lack of a connection with each other, if people are going to become more and more isolated, because we all know, whether it's an Elon Musk or somebody else who speaks about the fact that what really helps people succeed in the long run is their EQ, right? And emotional quotient only develops in a social cultural kind of a context where children are interacting with each other. So that's the first really harmful effect of isolation. And then if people are going to use technology or have access to screens all the time, then there are very few filters on how much time children are spending on social media and non-academic activities as well, which is the bigger challenge for the older students.
Right. That's very interesting, sir. One last question. How curious are children, young children, to know about pollution? Do you find them quite receptive when you tell them not to burst crackers? Or what is the sense that you get? Is there more awareness now as compared to a few years ago?
Definitely. I think one ray of hope we all of us associated with education we have is that really the lowest common denominator for all the positive changes in the society is going to be education. And we've all seen examples of children who implored parents to stop littering or following traffic rules, and slowly you see those behavior patterns change. So one real hope is that as children are more empowered, because they're definitely going to be the sufferers of this. So it's a responsibility to empower them by having honest conversations with them in schools, by telling them so many good things which are possible. Because very often when we speak about this, where with people outside and they say that you don't understand the plight of the farmer in Punjab. We understand the plight of the farmer in Punjab, and if students can be made to see both sides of the picture, the fact that there are solutions which are there within our country as well, some of which they'll be empowered to help as service change with them when they go back into their communities. So these are
Right.
the kind of discussions where we need to think of children not just as the sufferers, but how we can co-opt them into perhaps medium-term changes, because
Hmm.
it's like we're in this for the long haul.
Right. And finally, like, what is your expectation from policymakers? Is there kind of sensitization when it comes to the kind of impact it has on children, the stuff that you were telling me? Do you feel that policymakers actually understand the magnitude of this kind of impact that it has on children's lives? And what is it that you would expect them to understand when it comes to schools, their functioning, and giving a certain sense of certainty to children?
Well, what I think all of us would like policymakers to bear in heed is that the human capital is the real and the most crucial thing for the country. And in the future, where access to smarter technologies and access to more rapidly changing things is where the next economic battle is going to be fought. So if you're going to compromise the well-being, it's not just the academic accomplishment, but the well-being of an entire generation, then in one way we're imperiling national security and the future of the nation. So this is an issue which is seasonal in nature and affected only to Delhi. It's a nationwide problem with nationwide consequences in the future.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Mugali. Thank you very much. That was Pranil Pungali, educationist and trustee of Sanskriti Group of Schools, telling us how it is important to have an honest conversation with our children when it comes to pollution, and also time for policymakers to understand the impact that closure of schools, delayed closure, I mean, in the sense, extended closure of schools can have on children and their lives. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.